Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second session in American English Live Teacher Development Series 9. We're thrilled to be back with you for another exciting AE Live series. My name is Amanda, and I'll be with you today along with my colleague behind the scenes, Lauren, who will be serving as moderator to help you answer your questions and respond to your comments during the session. Today, our host, Kate, will be talking with our presenter, Dieter Brunn, about promoting student-to-student interaction in the EFL classroom. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of American English Live Teacher Development Series 9. We're so excited to see all of you here with us today. And yeah, thanks so much for being here. So we love to see our teacher participants actively engaged, and we hope that you will continue to go ahead and write your great comments in the chat box or in the comments feature, just like these great comments that we have here. So our first one is from Lizzie, who says, "Thank you so much for the practical and helpful ideas." Thanks for saying that, Lizzie. We're happy that you were here with us. And let's see, Professor Alejandro says, "This is a wonderful session. We have more ideas now to be able to make grouping easy and fun." Thanks so much, Professor. And Hector says, "I sincerely want to thank you for sharing your knowledge during these webinars. I have enhanced my perspective in English teaching." We're so happy to have those great comments from all of you, and we look forward to seeing even more of your great comments with us. So please feel free to share comments, and if you share via social media, tag us at American English for Educators, and you can also always email your comments to americanenglishwebinars@fhi360.org. All right. So on the next slide, you can see that today is our second session in American English Live Teacher Development Series 9. This series, we are exploring sessions related to the themes of collaborative learning, cultivating meaningful discussion using critical thinking skills, and corrective feedback. So we hope you will be able to use all of the practical ideas we share. Which session or theme are you most excited about? Please let us know in the chat box. So here's what to expect today. Each session is about 60 minutes long and is often related to an online professional English network or massive open online course, or MOOC. The presenter will present the material, and I, as your host, will ask questions and make comments as well. But we really hope to hear from you, our audience. So please, again, make sure to share your questions, thoughts, and ideas using the comments feature or chat box. And when our session comes to a close in about an hour, you'll have an opportunity to receive a digital badge for your participation. At the end of the session, we will share a link in the comments and at the top of this post. Click on that link and complete a short quiz about today's session. You must answer 2 out of 3 multiple choice questions correctly. And once you've successfully done that, you can expect to receive your badge via email from badger@badger.io in about a week. And we're thrilled to share about our current self-paced massive open online course, TESOL Methodology. The course opened on September 8th and will remain open until November 30th. We hope you'll join us for this free MOOC focused on effective TESOL practices for the 21st century. Course participants will learn how to create an effective and communicative language classroom for all learners. To learn more and enroll, visit the link both on the screen and being shared by the moderators in the chat or comments. And now for today's session, dynamic ways to increase student-to-student interaction. In this webinar, we will explore options for promoting student-to-student interaction in the EFL classroom through a variety of exciting, easy-to-adapt games and activities. And we'll examine options for creating energizing and engaging lessons that motivate students and increase their confidence regardless of class size or level. And now we are pleased to introduce our presenter, Dieter Brunn. Dieter is president and founder of One World Training, specializing in education and training programs around the globe. With master's degrees in TESOL and language and international trade and more than 25 years of teaching and training experience, he has conducted workshops all over the world, including Brazil, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Myanmar, India, Pakistan, Korea, Senegal, and the US. Dieter has also served on the executive board of Colorado TESOL since 2005, including 2 years as president. Welcome, Dieter. We're so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Kate, for that wonderful introduction. And I just want to say hello to everybody, either good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. It's 6 o'clock in the morning here in Colorado, so I'm getting off to an early start today. I'm really, really excited that all of you are joining the webinar today. This is a topic that I'm very passionate about, student-to-student interaction. It's something that is amazing to do in the classroom. It's something that's helpful. It's also something that can be challenging. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about the goals for today's session. Number one, I'd like you to kind of leave here to recognize that the challenges with getting students to communicate with each other can be overcome. We're also going to explore some sample activities that encourage student-to-student interaction. And the third point is really important. We're going to talk about how to adapt these activities to different contexts, different levels, and different class size. I know some of you have small classes, some of you have huge classes, and we want to kind of talk about how we can adapt these types of activities to different contexts and levels and class size. And I'd also like you to walk away with a toolkit of ideas that will motivate your students at the same time improving their confidence and their English language skills. Okay, so let's move on. So I'm sure you guys all know this, but we're just going to take a second. The importance of student-to-student interaction. Why is it important to have your students interact in the classroom? Number one, it provides opportunities for students to actively use the language. Instead of being passive, they are active. And student-to-student interaction is suitable for large classes, small classes, different levels. It's something you can use in any kind of context. It reinforces language acquisition and learning and leads to your students getting a bigger mastery of the language by actively using it. And also, student-to-student interaction simply makes language learning more fun and more relevant for the students. Okay, so let's move on. I'd like to hear from you. One of the things about these webinars is we love to have audience interaction. So always feel free to type, as Kate mentioned, in the chat box. I'd like to ask you a question to get started. What challenges do you face with student-to-student interaction in your classroom? So go ahead and type some comments.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. What challenges do you face with student-to-student interaction in the classroom? Please feel free to go ahead and share those ideas in the chat box or in the comments feature. What do you think, everybody? What sort of challenges when you are maybe doing group work or pair work and you are want your students to interact with each other do you face? So let's see. Some students are timid or shy from Sunbeam. Students are culturally shy, lack of confidence from Mari Carr. Hard to control what students are talking about sometimes. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Susanna says some students do not use the target language. Yes, that's a common problem for sure. Let's see. And Michelle says sometimes students are shy and they don't feel confident at all when interacting with others. And then sometimes maybe they're a little hyperactive and they are not focused on the topic. So lots of different challenges. Thanks so much for sharing those, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I was looking at the comments too as they came in. A lot of comments about shy. Someone made a comment about having 97 students, which is a huge class. And shyness, just getting students motivated using the language. So we're going to look at a lot of those challenges that you face today. And our goal today is really to help you overcome those challenges so that you can do this successfully in the classroom. So let's move to the first activity. This is one of my favorite types of activities called double lines. Double lines can be used essentially pretty much any class size, any level, and many different kinds of activities. It's a way to get students to all interact at the same time, no matter how many students you have in your class. So this is a photo taken in Senegal where I did some teacher training. And what you see is you see two lines of students facing each other. And these students are communicating. They communicate with their partner. So you basically divide the class into two lines. And the key here is they practice whatever you want them to practice in the classroom. We have some ideas on the bottom about we can do a warm-up activity, we can practice vocabulary, it could be a grammar structure, it could be a more controlled environment where the students might be practicing a particular dialogue, or it could be used for fluency activities where it's less structured. So we can use this structure in a lot of different ways. The key is all the students are talking at the same time, communicating with their partner. One line always remains the same. The other line rotates. So the person at the end of the line will move to the other end and everybody rotates to a new partner. So this is a really great way for students to interact with lots of different people. You can rotate the line as many times as you want. One of the challenges that happens in classes sometimes is sometimes teachers say, practice with your neighbor. And then you end up practicing with the same person over and over and over again. Double lines allows the students to interact with multiple students. They keep changing partners. And that's the key here, is that communication becomes more exciting. It becomes different because you're talking to different people. So this is a structure that I love to use for all different kinds. Anytime I want my students to interact with each other, I can do this. I know someone mentioned having 97 students. You can have multiple double lines in the classroom. I had a class once with 37 students, and I would do a double line at the front of the room and a double line at the back. So no matter how many students you have, everybody could still communicate at the same time. The key here is setting it up so the students know what they're going to do, but once you get them into the lines, once they're ready, this is a great way to practice. Also for shy students, some of you had some comments, because they're talking one-on-one, it's a lot less intimidating than being in front of the whole class, because everybody's now talking at the same time. So this works great with students who have some, who are timid as well. So let's go to the next slide. I'm gonna ask you guys a couple questions. Just thinking about double lines, I'd like to hear from you, how might you adapt double lines to different levels?
All right, yeah, we'd like to hear from you, everybody. How might you adapt? Yeah, how might you adapt this activity? And the slide's looking a little bit blurry to me, but maybe it's just my computer. All right, how might you adapt this? So we're seeing a lot of great comments about how this is a really good, interesting activity that people want to use, like Fatumata said that. Let's see, Tanya says, this is a great activity because it helps all students participate without taking into account their weaknesses. So you're focusing more on their strengths, which is great. Let's see, we have a couple of questions as well. Yolanda says, how would you have students interact in online classes with this kind of an activity?
That is a great question. Online, I know that that's a big question right now because of COVID. A lot of us are now teaching online. Double lines itself, if you have the ability to create rooms, individual rooms, like in Zoom, when you have Zoom rooms, I don't know if you have the ability or not. One way to do this is to create Zoom rooms and have the students communicate in Zoom rooms, and then switch around the Zoom rooms. That would be one way to do this. You could also have students in a Zoom room. If you have, say, 6, maybe 2 of them communicate, then 2 more, and then 2 more. So you could just sort of switch around would be another way. Double lines itself is not the most ideal activity for an online situation, but thinking about how you can use rooms to put students in small groups or pairs. Somebody put a comment about not being suitable for 100 students. Actually, I've done these I've done double lines at conferences before where I've had 100 to 150 people in the room, and I've done double lines. So double lines can be used for any class size, regardless of how many students. They said you might have to do 3 separate double lines or 4, but you can use this really any class size.
Great. And another great idea for adapting this from JP, he says, another style that can be used when the class size is big is to let others observe first. Maybe they can remain seated while others perform the activity, and then they can then take turns and switch to be participants. So that's a great idea as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, this is a fantastic
and
idea.
Maria says some nice, she likes to have speaking tasks using Flipgrid and collaboration in breakout rooms, as you were saying, Dieter. So that's great. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. So let's go ahead and move forward. And some of you had questions too about shy students. I'd love to get a little feedback from you about how you might get shy students to engage in this type of activity.
Yeah, what do you think, everybody? How would you maybe engage more shy students with this activity? And while we are waiting for your comments on that, there's another quick question. Would you, this is from Abdurrahim. Dieter, is it better for teachers to divide students into levels for this activity, or not really?
You know, it depends. That's a great question about levels. Most classes have multi-levels in them. Even if we have a class that's supposed to be for beginners, we usually have a range. I look at different levels in two ways. One is you could have more advanced students in one of the lines and weaker students in the other line, and that way in pairs, they can actually, the stronger students can actually help the weaker students. So that's a great way, especially if you have a larger class. I like to think of my more advanced students as teachers in the classroom. So anybody who has a higher level than the other students, those are my extra teachers. So in a double line activity, if you pair them up with weaker students and stronger students, that really helps them because then they have a peer, a classmate who can help them through the activity. The other option too with double lines is you could have a double line with your weaker students and another double line with more advanced students, and you could challenge the more advanced students to do something harder while the weaker students are doing something easier. So that's another way. So there are kind of two options you can use for that.
Great. And we have a lot of great ideas about how to engage shy students. So one idea is to give them time in a group or maybe by themselves before presenting, before doing the task. That's great. Let's see, Anur said hand out questions beforehand. That's a great idea. Pair them with learners who are considered more active in class, from Don de Guzman, great. And maybe pair them up with talkative students also from Kate Jiang. And maybe have them do something in pairs first from Roja. So that's great. And a lot of other really great ideas. Maybe begin with simple questions. Awesome. Really great ideas, everyone.
Yeah, those are fantastic ideas. And one thing about, and sort of thinking about some of the ideas you said about practicing ahead, starting easy, maybe pairing them first before the double line. I like to wait to do double lines until I've given the students a chance to practice a little bit before that, so I know that they're ready. So those are all really good points. And those also really help our shy students as well. So thank you all for your questions and comments. Those are super great. Let's go ahead to the next activity, which is called Find Someone Who. And I think a lot of you have probably done these types of activities in the classroom before. I do a variation of this. Find Someone Who is essentially an activity where students try to find information about their classmates to complete a chart. So let's go ahead to the next slide and we'll take a look. Here's an example. Usually we have more, but just for the screen, I put 5 of them here. Find someone who can play football, can ride a bike, can cook, can sew, can swim. You could add more and more to this list. One thing I like about using the word can, there are actually a couple of reasons. One, often students talk about what they can't do. Oh, I can't speak English. Oh, I can't read this. I can't understand this. That focuses on negative energy. Can focuses on positive. It's like, what can you do? So it actually helps build confidence. This activity is also great for creating more classroom community. But the can is, and it also in this case, The structure is the same for the questions, like can you play football? Can you ride a bike? Can you cook? Can you sew? Can you swim? They just have to put the word you in there and they create a question. So it's, especially for lower level students, it creates an easy structure for them to work with in terms of asking the question. Most find someone who activities, you only find the name. So you might say to someone, can you ride a bike? And if they say yes, then you write their name and then you go to another student. So it's very simple. I like to add this additional information column. This encourages students to ask follow-up questions, which is a great language skill and also a great life skill. Because if someone says, can you ride a bike? Yes. That's kind of not so interesting. But if someone says, oh, what kind of bike do you have? Or how often do you ride? You know, we start to get into asking more questions and creating more communication, more authentic communication. So Kate and I are gonna model this just to show you how it works. So Kate has the same sheet that I do. And my goal is to find one thing about Kate, and she's gonna find one thing about me, and then I'm gonna talk to another student. So this also encourages students to talk to multiple classmates. So I'm gonna start with Kate. I can do these in any order I want. I'm gonna start with the first one though. Kate, can you play football?
No, I can't, sorry.
Okay, so the answer is no, so I don't write her name. So I'm gonna ask her another question. Can you cook?
Yes, I love to cook.
Okay, so now I'm gonna put Kate's name there because she said yes. And if I don't know her name, I do know her name, but if I didn't, I would say, oh, what's your name? So again, it would be a way to create connection. Now the key is I'm gonna ask her a follow-up question. I could ask her lots of different follow-up questions, but I'm gonna ask her one. I'm gonna say, what is your favorite dish?
I love to make beans and rice.
Beans and rice. Okay, so now I'm gonna write, and we'll click here. I'm gonna put beans and rice in the next column. So now I've gotten one thing about Kate. So now it's Kate's turn to ask me some questions. So we're gonna go to the next slide. So Kate's chart is blank because she hasn't started yet. Now she's going to ask me a question.
Dieter, can you sew?
Nah, I can't.
All right, let's see. Can you swim?
Yes, I can.
All
So
right.
Kate's going to write my name.
And yeah,
Okay.
if I didn't know your name, I guess I'd say, what's your name?
Right.
And then let's see, how far can you swim?
I can swim 5 kilometers.
Wow, that's great.
So then she'll write 5 kilometers. So now Kate and I are done, and then we will go to someone else. And so the nice thing about this is now I'm going to go to another student and then another student. So we're getting a lot of communication, plus this additional information piece, as I mentioned, is really going to create more dialogue and more interaction. So let's go to the next slide. And I want to ask you a question here. How can you involve student choice or student interest in this activity? Can you think of some ways where, particularly student interest?
Yeah, so we'd love to hear from you, everybody. Please let us know your response to this question in the chat or comments. How can you involve student choice or student interest in this activity? What are some ways to really engage students and make sure that they are invested by bringing in their interests and their choices? What do you think? Let's see, you can know their hobbies ahead of time from Howay. That's a great idea. So you maybe would incorporate some of those in your Find Someone Who chart. Michelle also says you can ask them about their hobbies. Great. Consider their age. Great, because maybe their interests are a little bit determined on their age. Providing presents. I love that. That sounds great, Aizan. Always nice to have prizes or presents. Tell them a story about the activity from Mary Grace. Current events. That's a great idea. Let's see. Ask about their favorites, write a variety of hobbies to make sure you have all of different hobbies in there from Hafa Shimana. About video games from Yana. Sounds like you already know your students love video games. Great, thanks everybody.
Yeah, those are great ideas. What I heard a lot of is, know your students and then maybe find out about their hobbies and their interests, and it might depend on their age. And these are great things to think about. If you kind of know some of your students' interests, then you can create this list based on what you know your students already are interested or what they already like to do. Um, so this is a great way to involve the students. So you're making sure that you know that their answer is going to be yes. Another thing you can do is, for this particular one, I used can for every question. Can you, can you, can you? That makes it very easy, but for higher level students, you could mix it up, like find someone who has brown hair. Then the question is different. Do you have brown hair? Um, do you like find someone who likes ice cream? Do you like ice cream? So you can make it more complex by changing the structures and the kind of questions that the students need to ask. But great ideas. This is just a list of instructions for you. So if you look at the PowerPoint later, you'll have the instructions here, but we won't go over these now. So let's go to the next activity, which is things in common. I love this activity because it helps students get to know each other. It's nice to sort of see things that you share with other students in your class. And it also helps with this community building in the classroom. I'm very big on building this safe community with connection. And again, whether we have 10 students or 50 students, we want to have this sense of community where students feel more comfortable, and also for shy students to feel less shy. So let's go ahead and talk about things in common. The way that I present this is, instead of telling students what in common means, I give them a little paragraph to read, which presents it in context. So let's go ahead and look at this together. Rohan and Kabir have a lot in common. Rohan likes to read, and so does Kabir. Rohan has two sisters, and Kabir also has two sisters. Both Rohan and Kabir can ride a bicycle. Rohan's favorite color is blue, and Kabir's favorite color is also blue. Rohan likes to play video games, and so does Kabir. Both Rohan and Kabir have black hair. So I'm going to ask you the question, audience. You guys can type really quickly. What does in common mean? What does that mean when we say in common?
Yeah, please let us know your answers here. So yeah, Roderick says similarities. Michelle, same things alike, or having something that you share. Similar, lots of people saying similar or same. Shared qualities from Suzanne, that's a nice definition. Something that is resembled from Anur. Things which look alike. Loving the same thing from Badwin. Great.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, fantastic. So, all of you came up with different ways of saying in common, same, similar, same qualities, similar features. So this is how I present it to the students. So they, again, instead of telling them in common means this, I get the answer from them. So I'm pulling from the students, I'm engaging my students in the process. So let's go to the next slide. What I do is I might give the students some sample questions, just so they have some starters, some ideas of how they can ask each other questions. So for example, like, do you like ice cream? Do you like to swim? What is your favorite color? Do you live in Seoul? How old are you? Do you wear glasses? So just some different sample questions so they have some guidance. Then we're going to start the activity. We're going to go to the next slide. And everybody has a list. Usually I have more than 9, but the slide doesn't have a lot of room. So the goal here is for students to find as many things in common with their partner as they can. So I put the students into pairs, okay? The nice thing about things in common too is it also, again, builds this community. It's like, what do we share? What do we have that's the same? And very often it's amazing how many things we have in common with other people, and once we talk about it, we learn that. So I'm going to practice this with Kate as an example. Kate, do you like cold weather?
I don't. I really don't like cold weather. Do
Kate's going to ask me the same question.
you like cold weather?
I do. So Kate said no, I said yes. So is it the same? No. So we don't write anything. So I'm going to ask Kate another question. Kate, do you like to eat fish?
Yes, I love to eat fish. How about you, Dieter? Do you like to eat fish?
I really like to eat fish. Is that the same?
Yep.
Yes. So we're going to write like to eat fish. We don't have to write a whole sentence here, but just a few words, like to eat fish. Okay, Kate, what is your favorite color?
My favorite color is purple. How about you, Dieter? What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is blue. Is it the same? No. So we don't write anything. Now Kate's going to ask me a question.
Dieter, do you like to swim?
Yes, I do. Do you like to swim?
Yeah, I love to swim.
Fantastic. So we're going to write that, like to swim. Fantastic. Kate, what color is your hair?
I have brown hair. How about you, Dieter? What color is your hair?
I also have brown hair. Is it the same?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we're going to continue back and forth asking each other questions and finding as many things as we can. At the end of the activity, what I'd like to do is once everybody's finished, as a teacher, I'm usually running around the room. I'm seeing how students are doing. I'm facilitating. If they're stuck, I can help them with some sentence or question ideas. And then at some point when students have a nice little chunk, I'll stop the activity and I'll have each group share. So I could say for Kate and me, I could say, Kate and I both have brown hair. So we can share with the students some things we have in common, and I go from group to group. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. This is a question I want you to think about, is how can you prepare students for this activity? I want to hear from the audience.
Yeah, what do you think, everyone? How can you prepare students for this activity? Please let us know. And I just have a nice comment here from Kay, who says that this is a great activity because students would enjoy it because they prefer to describe about things that they have or are interested in and find out who has those types of things in common. So a great way to build community. So thanks for that comment, Kay. Let's see, how else can you prepare students for this activity? Let's see, Badwin says think, pair, share. Pre-teach vocabulary from Anur. Maybe they can do this activity with their best friends from Don de Guzman. Monali says you can maybe share some communication skills, maybe some sentence structures or some grammar sentence frames to get them ready. Let's see, Angela says making them write down their ideas first before they talk about them. Review of adjectives, verbs, and question words from Gloria.
Mm-hmm.
And Shaq says that you could do a worksheet where they fill out some information about themselves. So great ideas, everybody. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, fantastic ideas. That's why I love to have you guys share your ideas, because I know all of you are teaching in different parts of the world. So that's great. And somebody did mention the idea about doing a demo first. You notice how I just demonstrated this with Kate? This is how I would actually do it with students. I would pick a student who's a bit more advanced to make sure that I have a partner that's comfortable working. And I would do this as I did with Kate, maybe do it a couple times, get some yes answers, some no answers, so the students have a model. And then I hand it over to the students so they know what to do. But I love your ideas too about having students, get some ideas ahead of time, teaching some vocabulary, maybe giving them more sentence structures and things. So great ideas. Let's go ahead and move on to the, next question. And some of you answered this already about helping lower level students. Any other ideas on helping lower level students that we haven't talked about yet? I know you guys talked about modeling and you talked about introducing vocabulary, anything else that we might be able to do to help lower students be successful with this?
Yeah, it looks like Sunbeam says teach how to ask questions. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Write some questions or guidelines ahead of time from Mabel. And maybe instructing them how to interview each other with from Zin. And maybe have yes/no questions from Lele. So maybe you can write some yes/no questions, and if they match up, they have that in common. That's a great idea. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, fantastic. I love the way you guys are interjecting here and sharing your ideas again. It's really great. Super. So let's go ahead and move on to, again, here we have the instructions here for you. So after we do this webinar, you can access the PowerPoint and have the instructions here. So let's go ahead to the next slide, which is information gap. And information gaps, I love information gaps because information gaps are a way to get students to communicate with each other by needing to share information. In an information gap, generally the way it works, one student has information, the other student has information, and they have to communicate to share that information. Information gaps can be used in a lot of different ways. Today we're going to do a very, very simple one, just as an example, but then we're going to talk about how to adapt it to higher levels. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So student A, so with this one, I'll divide the students into pairs again. So whether you have 20 students or 100 students, it doesn't matter because you're going to have student A and student B. So if you have 100 students, then you have 50 pairs. If you have 30 students, you'll have 15 pairs. So this is a very simple one, but in this one, we have name, age, favorite food, and favorite color. And we have 4 folks here, Carlos, Maria, Veronica, and Pedro, okay? And so if you notice here, student A has some information, but is missing some information. We're gonna go to student B now, and you'll notice when we go to student B, it's the opposite. So student B has the information that student A is missing, and student A has the information that student B is missing. In order to get this information, the students need to communicate with each other, okay? And again, this is a very simple one that we're doing right now. But we're gonna go ahead and let's say that I am student A and Kate is student B. So Kate is gonna ask me a couple of questions to fill in her information.
Great. Let's see. How old is Maria?
Maria is 13. And so Kate will write 13. Then I'll ask Kate a question. You can't see my sheet right now, but I might ask Kate, I don't know Carlos's age. So I might ask Kate, Kate, how old is Carlos?
He's 12. Carlos is 12.
Right, so I'll put 12 on mine, but we're looking at Kate's sheet now. Now Kate's gonna ask me another question.
What is Carlos's favorite food?
Carlos's favorite food is beans. So Kate will write beans. So this is, again, simple, but we're going to go back and forth, communicate, and ask each other questions. Now with information gaps, I can make this much more complicated, more complex information. I use information gap a lot for reading activities where one student reads one thing, another student reads another thing, and they have to communicate. And information gaps don't have to be limited to pairs. I've done a lot of information gaps where I've had 3 students. So now, you have 3 students communicating with each other, and each student needs to get information from the other 2. So it's a really, really fun way. Again, class size doesn't matter. We can adapt it to different levels by, again, this is very simple. This is very basic, but I could have much more complicated information. I can do readings. I can do all different kinds of activities using the information gap structure. Okay, so let's go ahead to the next slide. And what I'd like to do is ask you to kind of think about how can you adapt this to online teaching and learning?
Great. So we saw this great information gap activity. How could you adapt this to online teaching and learning? We'd love to hear from you. What do you think, everybody? How would you adapt this for online teaching and learning? We heard from some folks earlier that maybe you could use a collaborative writing tool. So maybe people could share like a Google Doc or a shared doc. You could use breakout rooms from Roja. It's okay if you don't have any ideas, that's no problem. That's why we're all here sharing and learning together. Let's see, what else you could have? Yeah, collaborative boards in Nearpod. That's from Roja. Oh, cool. I've never heard of that, of Nearpod before. Let's see, they could do Padlet from Suzanne. They could chat with each other, like using a chat app, maybe WhatsApp or another platform. That's a great idea. WhatsApp from Conchita, I could adapt it by working in WhatsApp. Great, those are wonderful ideas. Thank you.
Yeah, great ideas, everybody. Thank you. And I love the idea about using WhatsApp or something like that, where the students can actually either, well, with WhatsApp, you can either talk or you can type, but even for writing and reading, this could be turned into a reading writing where they ask each other questions and get answers, or doing the little breakout rooms. If you can divide your class online into individual rooms, you could put the students in pairs. Really great ideas. So thank you so much for sharing. And I noticed somebody put how you can use this for jigsaw readings and things where you have, it's like a puzzle and each person has a piece of that puzzle in a reading and they have to talk and communicate to get all the information together. So fantastic ideas. Love all your ideas. Let's go ahead to the next activity. This one is a bit more, first we have the instructions here, so we'll just go to the next activity. This activity, I call this one Mountain Trek. This activity is a bit more sort of intermediate to advanced. We've been doing a lot of more basic activities. I want to kind of show you something that's a little more challenging. This is an activity where students need to work together to make decisions and to support their decisions. So it's really good critical thinking as well. So let's go ahead to the slide and I'll sort of explain it. So basically students are going to be going on a trek in the mountains and making decisions about what to take. So I'm going to start out by introducing some key vocabulary. The vocabulary that I chose here is what I think is the more complicated vocabulary for this activity. So I'd like to do this kind of a matching where you have a picture and the word and you have to figure out which one is which. So let's take a look at this together. What's the first, and you can type this in your chat. You know, we have sleeping bag, compass, map, flashlight, matches, binoculars, tent, and stove. The first picture in the top left corner, what is that? And go ahead and type it in the chat. I'm going to be pulling this from the students.
Yep, looks like we have some great responses right away. Hazel, Monali, everybody's saying sleeping bag. Is that correct, Dieter?
That is correct. So what the students will do is then under there, they're going to write sleeping bag and they can cross it out of their list. So that's the first one. Let's go to the second picture now. Let's take a look at that one. What's that one?
Yes, Roderick came right in with binoculars. I think he might be correct.
Yeah, that's great. I see everyone typing binoculars. And again, I'm pulling this from the students, just like you're typing here. And so it's binoculars. So we'll continue this. We won't do it here, the whole thing, but the students can do this pre-vocabulary. You could have them working with a partner, working together to decide which one's which and then go over with the whole class. But this pre-vocabulary is really helpful to make sure the students know the vocabulary because trekking in the mountains may be a very unfamiliar context for them. So they may not think about things like binoculars and sleeping bags and things like that. Okay, so we're gonna go, some of you are already typing the third one, which is tent, correct? In the interest of time, we're gonna move forward, but here's the activity. You and your partner are going to go on a 3-day trek in the mountains. You can only take 6 of the following items with you. So you and your partner need to decide which 6 to take and why. You notice here I have 12. I added a few that we didn't have on the previous page. I added nice. I added water. I'm assuming students know this vocabulary already. I added jackets. I added food. So I added 4 more words. But the ones that I taught them in the pre-vocabulary is basically the vocabulary that is more challenging, okay? Now the students will work with a partner and they're gonna decide the 6 things, but they're also gonna decide why. And that's the key here. It's not just like, okay, we're gonna take sleeping bags, binoculars, water, flashlight, you know, that's interesting, but we want to decide, why are we taking each item? Why are you taking a sleeping bag? Why are you taking a flashlight? And this way, again, it's critical thinking. These are intermediate to advanced students. Get into critical thinking while also doing student-to-student communication. Once they decide, and I see some of you are choosing already, which is great. It's very fun. One person just said, number 1, water, can't continue a long walk without water. That's a great point. So again, critical thinking, right? Like why are you taking these items? And then I love it. I'm seeing some comments here. Sleeping bag because it's about to get dark. Flashlight for seeing. You know, so there's a reason for it. Great comments. This is really, really fun. What I like to do when the students have finished is have them share with the rest of the class. So if Kate and I are working together, we might say, well, we picked water because you can't live 3 days without water. And then we picked, you know, whatever we picked. We picked sleeping bags because it gets cold at night in the mountains and we don't want to freeze to death, okay? So we're going to decide, share. For a larger class, you could have the students share in groups. So instead of having everybody sharing with the whole class, you could put the students in smaller groups and have them share with a smaller group. Again, so everybody's communicating, sharing, and talking. Again, really, really fun activity. What I'd like you to think about is, if we go to the next slide, is thinking about this activity. How can you adapt an activity like this to different levels?
Yeah, and it is really fun seeing all of your responses about which items you would pick, everybody. This is a really fun activity. How would you adapt this for different levels? What are some ideas that you might have to maybe adapt it for a higher level or a lower level of students? What do you think? Lots of people either saying, I love this activity, or telling us which items they would bring. Let's see. Hazel, maybe group them according to what they love to do, using heterogeneous groups. Let's see. Maybe different plots or different items. That's great. So this plot is that we're going on a 3-day trek. Maybe it's a different scenario or a different plot. Great. The word why can enrich this activity. That's great, and does enrich this activity. Different topics. Maybe you can provide pictures that already have the word on them. Choosing topics according to their age, so things that they're interested in depending on their age. And maybe a higher level students could write summaries or maybe a paragraph about what they choose. So these are great ideas, everybody. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, fantastic. I love the ideas about using different topics too, because trekking in the mountains is kind of a more complex topic, but maybe going to the park would be a simpler one, you know. Take some food, take a ball, take, you know, sunscreen. You know, it could be, you can adapt this to different themes and also related to your student interests and things like that. Giving them more vocabulary, making the vocabulary simpler and the context simpler. So we can do a lot of things. The next question is, how can we adapt this to an online environment? Any quick ideas?
Yeah, we've heard some really great ideas from you all on adapting other activities for online teaching and learning. What about this one? How could you adapt this one for online teaching and learning? Would love to hear your ideas. So again, we could use chatting apps. Let's see. You could use WebEx, yeah. You could use Teams. There's so many platforms to choose from, right? You kind of have to pick which platform is best for your context, which one your students have access to. Maybe students could create presentations, like an online presentation to share their ideas from Julia. Video presentations, the same, yeah, from Arma. Let's see, breakout sessions based on their interests from Tete. You could maybe use Kahoot, so maybe like a quiz type of thing. Great.
Yeah.
Excellent ideas, everybody.
Thank you so much. I always love all of your ideas. And one person also wrote down you could use it for writing actually too, right? So the students could actually take this and pick their 6 items and do a whole paragraph about why they chose those 6. So lots of great ideas in texting or using online platforms and all these things. Super ideas, especially as I mentioned in today's world where a lot of us are doing more things online. We have time for one more activity. Again, here are our instructions, but we're going to go to the last activity, which is grab bag TV commercials. This activity is a blast. It can be used at all different levels. I love to use this activity. It gets students talking, it gets them to be creative, really uses their creativity, and it gets them just to kind of have fun with whatever level of language they have. Students can have fun with this. So the way this works is a grab bag is just it's a bag that has, in this case, a lot of items in it, okay? And I can put anything in here I want to, but before I do that, we're going to go and look at how to set this up. So I start with power words. Power words are words, well, let me ask you, what are power words? What's a power word?
What do you think a power word is, everybody? How would you maybe define power words? We have some clues here on the slide, but what do you think is a power word? Energized word from Cheryl.
Strong
nice.
word.
Positive. Yeah. Something to cheer you up. I love that. Attractive word. Great. Empowering. Nice.
Fantastic. Yeah, you guys have great ideas. So if you think about it, sometimes students have one word they like to use, like they might like the word good. How's your English class? Good. How was your vacation? Good. How was the movie last night? It was good. So that's not really a powerful word. Power words have a couple purposes. One is it encourages students to improve and increase their vocabulary, to start to use other words. So it really does that. It also makes something sound more powerful. It gives more power to what you're saying. Instead of just saying it's good, if you say it's amazing. What do you guys think of this webinar? It's good, right? But what if you say, what do you think of this It's awesome. It's amazing. It's fantastic. So these are power words. What I'd like you guys to do, well, we're kind of low on time, so I was going to have you give me more examples of power words, but what I usually do is I ask the students, you know, what are some more power words? And in this case, we're using adjectives. So what I want is the students to give me more words, okay? Here someone says, unbelievable, breathtaking, great. I'm seeing these chats, perfect. Yeah, so I see you guys typing in the chat box, and we have a lot of these words up here, but like modern, beautiful, fabulous, delicious, magnificent, dynamic, perfect, terrific, and you guys have a lot more. So we get this list on the board, okay? So now, this is the fun part. We have this list of power words. Now, I'm going to, as a teacher, I'm going to model this, okay? I want the students to create a TV commercial working with a partner. So they're going to work with a partner, and they're going to create a TV commercial using as many power words as they can. So I'm going to model this, okay? So I don't know if we can switch to full screen mode here. Can you guys see me? Hopefully you can see me. Can everybody see me? Okay, cool. So I have my grab bag, and I have lots of items in here. You know, I could have like a spoon, I could have a pair of pliers, I could have a mobile phone. I can put all kinds of items in here. It doesn't really matter what it is, okay? Then I'm gonna pick an item out of here to model, okay? Oh, and I picked a pair of sunglasses, right? Now, what I encourage students to do here is to be creative. This is a pair of sunglasses, but to be creative and use their imagination. So my model will show this. So for example, I'm going to take time with my partner. We're going to prepare. The students will present together, but I'm going to model by myself just as an example. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you the modern, unique, fantastic sunglasses. Now, these look like normal sunglasses, but when I look at someone, I can read their mind. Kate, I think that you are thinking about what you're going to have for lunch today. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
You see, I can read her mind. But wait, there's more. These amazing sunglasses also have a lot of unique and fantastic features. For example, when I put these on and click this button, I get amazing high resolution photographs that upload directly to my mobile phone. Isn't that amazing? Now, these state-of-the-art sunglasses should cost thousands of dollars, but if you order them today, you can get them for $99 plus shipping. So take advantage of this fantastic offer and order yours today. Okay, so we can go back to regular view now. So this is how I do this activity. So I'm preparing students, I'm showing them what to do, then I'm gonna work with a partner. They're gonna pick one item for two students. So one item, and they get to do the same thing, but again, we want them to be creative, right? So if I have, you know, a glass of water, maybe when I drink this, suddenly I can speak a new language. Ni hao, ni hao ma, right? So we can do all kinds of fun, crazy things. And it's really fun for students. And students at a lower level, I would do a simpler demonstration. Students at a higher level, I've done this at multiple levels. At students with less English will sometimes say, "Ooh, sunglasses, great. Ooh, take picture." You know, they could do it really simple. We're not worried about grammar here. We're just worried about fluency, fun, and again, they're working together. They're interacting together with their partner to prepare and present this, okay? And for an online situation, the way you can do it is you can have students pick an item at home and create a video. They could create their own TV commercial by doing this at home and then sharing the videos with the rest of the class online, and then students can comment, put comments in and things like that. So anyway, that's a great way to do this online or in a live classroom. So we're just about out of time. I just want to ask you one quick question is, how can you prepare students for this activity? What are some ways you can prepare students?
Yeah, Erin said you could provide a list of adjectives or some synonyms for people to use. Let's see, you can do a model just like you did. And lots of people are just saying how much they love this activity and that great commercial. Use realia for vocabulary. Write a list on the board beforehand. So great ideas, everybody. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, yeah, you can do, I mean, you guys are coming up with fantastic ideas, but there are lots of ways to prepare. And modeling, that word came up a lot today, but one of the keys to great teaching is great modeling. As long as you model something clearly, then your students have an example of what they need to do. So great comments, great ideas. We're pretty much out of time, so I'm going to skip the next question because I want to make sure we wrap up here. But here are the instructions if you guys want them. Again, and then the next, I actually put the online instructions here too. So the same activity, how do you do it online? But I'd like to wrap up really quickly. Just quickly ask you, what is the most valuable thing that you learned today from this webinar?
Yeah, what do you think, everybody? What's the most valuable thing you learned today? Or maybe what activity are you excited to use in your classroom? Zar Chi says she's never seen this fantastic activity before. I think she's referring to the TV commercial. Eileen says,
Yes.
be creative. Nice. Lots of people saying be creative. Use the positive word can from Oli. Modeling very clearly from Graciela. Nice responses, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm seeing a lot of comments too as well. Yeah, so I wish we had more time today because there are so many more ideas that I could share with you, but it was great that you were all here. I really appreciate all of your input, all your questions, all your comments, the things you shared. So if we go to the last slide here, just to summarize. So now that we've done this, if we go back one, now that we've finished this webinar, you should now be able, hopefully, to recognize that challenges that you face with getting students to communicate with each other can be overcome. There are a lot of ways to overcome this, that you can design lessons that encourage student-to-student interaction, and that you can adapt your activities and your lessons to different contexts, different levels, and different class sizes. And finally, you can take this toolkit, you'll have access to this PowerPoint, use it with your students, and really help them improve their confidence and their communication skills. So I want to thank all of you so much. It was really wonderful to be with all of you here today. And I appreciate you all around the world participating in this webinar. So I'm going to turn it back over to Kate, but have a great rest of your day or a good night, depending on where you are in the world.
Thanks so much, Dieter, for sharing all those really fun, creative, motivating ideas that we can use in our classroom. I think we all are inspired to be more creative and adapt materials and strategies to our classroom, but also have some great new activities in our teacher toolbox. So thank you so much. And as always, we'd love to thank you, our wonderful audience, for your lively engagement and participation today. It's so exciting to see your great ideas in the chat box and in the comment section. So please continue to share those today and in all of our next webinars.